what does faith really mean practically? We want to make this as practical as possible, because that's really what it's all about. Sometimes we get so caught up in the theology of things and the definitions of things, and we know these verses and we throw verses around and we talk about things, but what does it look like practically? I want to keep it simple and plain. Before we look at the definition, the practical definition of faith, I want to note, first of all, how important faith really is. Now, first of all, we know it's very important from this verse because it's the only means whereby we access this saving grace, right? Sounds pretty important. Faith is very important. There are a number of verses that tell us about the importance of faith. Another one is Hebrews 11 and verse 6. It says, "But without faith it is impossible to please him," speaking of God. "For he that cometh to God must believe that he is, and that he is a rewarder of them that diligently seek him." That kind of puts a stop to all any other efforts and attempts at pleasing God. Without faith, it is what? Impossible to please God. Does it sound important? Very important. I don't think I need to ask for a show of hands how many people here want to please God. Everybody will put their hands up. The fact that you're here today indicates that. Well, here is a verse to remember. Without faith, it's impossible to please God. So it's very important and it's very significant for us to understand what is faith practically. The faith that will give us access to this grace, the faith that is pleasing to God. And do you and do I have that faith? Why is it impossible to please God without faith? What's the reason behind this verse? Why is only faith the thing that is pleasing to God? Well, the Apostle Paul actually tells us in Romans chapter 14 and verse 23. And he tells us here, "And he that doubteth is damned if he eat, because he eateth not of faith." And this is the statement we want to focus on. "For whatsoever is not of faith is sin." Okay, think about that for a minute. Let that sink into your minds a little bit. Whatsoever is not of faith is sin. And without faith, it is impossible to please God. You see it now? This is talking about the practical component. Makes it very, very significant here. So, faithlessness is sin. And without faith, or faithlessness, is displeasing to God. What we're talking about here, brothers and sisters, is that our natural setting as fallen children of Adam, as inheritors of sin, as being born into this fallen family, in that condition and in that state, it is impossible to please God because it is a condition and a state of faithlessness. Isn't that right? Whatsoever is not of faith is sin. You see, many times people talk about sin and the definition of sin and what sin is, and they look at sin in relation to the law, and particularly in relation to the things that the law specifies and whether we do them and whether we break them. And when we break them, that is sin. Here the apostle actually tells us that faithlessness is sin.